Boy, oh boy, there's lots of talk about Game Pass in the industry. Good, bad, welfare pass, broke pass, all this and all that. Yeah, then you have people like Reforge Gaming and Nibs openly saying that they'd rather play games on Game Pass than actually part with their money to actually buy it. In fact, they've gone as far as quoting, well, if it's on Game Pass, there's no reason for me to buy it. And then they turn around and mock Xbox owners for, oh, you don't buy games. Well, you just by definition said that you don't buy games if you had as you wouldn't do. I mean, you wouldn't buy games if you had as good a service as Game Pass, but you don't. And so I guess all that pushback is just pure deflection. But anyway, that's not really the talk of the show today. No, what we're talking about today is how Game Pass is still continuing and aiding companies. How Game Pass is still the leader in kind of advertising, putting the game out there, especially for those that aren't as well known. And one such example of this is Expedition 33, which for many now is being called, Game of the Year, and people are saying it didn't even need Game Pass to get the success. Yet the developers say, complete the opposite. And what's crazy here is that you'll even get people who are so butthurt about this that they'll actually go out their way and try to insinuate that the developers, the publishers, are actually lying. Yeah, that's some severe, mental gymnastics right there. That's when you know that you probably need to go and seek some professional help. But folks, let's have the drop and get into it. It's true, folks. It's true. As you can see here, James says you can't be serious. And you can see Clobril here saying it's literally a quote from a publisher of the game. But maybe James from X knows better. Where did they say it was key to success? It's literally right here. But you know what, folks? Let's actually read the tweet, right? Xbox and Game Pass was key to Expedition 33's success. At the Xbox Showcase, it was placed next to Gears of War, Fable, and AAA games. It let people understand what Expedition 33 was in a way that we would have struggled to do if we weren't aligned with Xbox. Basically, what they're saying there is, if they went their own, they would not have had the exposure that this game deserved in order for it to become the success it was. But you know what? Let's dive into the article and see for ourselves. And so here's the article. Let's have a look and see exactly what's going on here. The hit RPG developed by French studio Sandfall Interactive sold over 1 million units in 3 days. It was heavily backed by Xbox and a game featuring in 2 of the firm's digital events, as well as launching within Xbox Game Pass subscription service. During the summer showcase, our game was placed alongside Gears of War and Fable. So these are 2 gigantuan games that people are looking forward to with great suspense, right? Gears of War is a, beloved franchise, Fable even more so. So anything that's going to be placed in between is definitely going to have the eagle eyes of people watching, because at that point, that's when the big hitters are just coming back after back on the showcase. And products that are very traditionally known as AAA products. Kepler's senior portfolio director Matt Henron told the Game Business, "It let people understand what it was in a way that I think we would have struggled to do if we weren't allied with Xbox in that way." So the way it was placed was you had a massive AAA game, and alongside that then came Clair Obscur. After that came Fable. So in between these 2 gargantuan games, you had another game that really didn't have any of the PR, fanfare, publicity it needed, but placing it in between 2 gargantuan games, it must have held some significance. It captured the audience and captured the interest of everyone, and all eyes were on it in a way that it would not have been possible. And this is why Game Pass is so good. This is why the publishers love it so well, because it really can help. Obviously, Game Pass isn't for everyone, but in this situation here, Expedition 33 owes a lot of its success to how Microsoft not only delivered the product, but portrayed it during the summer showcase. And this is valuable to them, because without that, I don't believe that this game would have gone as viral as it actually did, right? I'm thinking back to a game called Nier Automata, which didn't have the same viral, kind of PR with it, or product placement for it. It is still one of my favorite games of all time, and if you haven't played it, you absolutely should. Nier Automata is a phenomenal game, but not enough played it. Whereas when we're looking at this game, millions upon millions have experienced it. And that is the difference to the success of both. Don't get me wrong, Nier now sold over 10 million. But it's a pretty old game now. They continue to say, we couldn't have done it through a Steam demo alone, which is what would have been their approach. For example, it helped us to kind of claim this AA territory in a much more confident way, because it's a vague space that exists somewhere between small games and extremely big games, and there's a lot of ground that covers, because it basically said, we are in this same league. We might not be AAA, but our game deserves to be alongside these games. And it gave them that confidence to do it. And it, showcasing it and then seeing the reaction of people. I mean, you just saw Gears with Dom coming back, then you saw Clair Obscur, and people were already like, yeah, this game's going to be good. And then they see Clair Obscur and they go wild, and then comes Fable and it's even better. The whole production of that was done perfectly well. And that's what they're saying here, that Game Pass essentially really, really helped them in that way to get that game out there to the masses in a way that they simply couldn't. And they owe a lot of that success to Microsoft, Xbox, and Game Pass. And let's not forget, 35% of Expedition 33 players also played Oblivion. Now, there was a lot of talk about, Expedition 33 being, kind of marred by Oblivion. But 35% of Expedition 33 players played Oblivion, according to the data firm. This is primarily due to Xbox Edition, with 55% of Xbox Expedition 33 players also engaging with Oblivion. So, for me, generally, when you think about Western RPGs and JRPGs, and I will refer to this as a JRPG because it's a genre. When I say JRPG, I don't really mean, the actual Japanese RPG, but it's more of a genre thing, right? You know the style of game you're getting when you say JRPG as opposed to a WRPG, a Western RPG. So I think they're so different in nature that you wouldn't really think that there'd be a lot of overlap with players enjoying one over the other, but here we are, and 55% did. The crossover percentage drops to 22% for Steam players and 16% for PS5 players. And this is more in line with what I was expecting, right? That's more in line with what I'm expecting. That percentage there. But on Xbox, it was 55% because people were willing to give it a try. And here's the thing, right? Because they were willing to give it a try, some of them liked it, some of them didn't. But the fact that it was on Game Pass meant that those people that probably would have skipped it and then ended up trying it and may have liked it, ended up continuing to play it. That's the key here. And that's where the engagement comes in. The data covers major European markets and all of this, whereas Expedition released on 24th. Xbox was the #1 platform for both games because of that Game Pass inclusion. 45% of Expedition 33 players were on Xbox, while 47% of Oblivion players were on Microsoft's platform, which includes PC Game Pass as well. So as you can see here, there's nothing here to dictate that Game Pass isn't helping. In fact, to the contrary, Expedition 33 is a phenomenal game. It definitely is a contender for Game of the Year. It definitely deserves a nomination for Game of the Year. But the success of Expedition 33, when they say Xbox and Game Pass was key, is 100% true. And unlike unknown 747675447, who is probably just an internet troll or a butthurt pony, who just can't simply accept the fact that more exposure means a potential higher success rate, and in this case, a key success feature for Expedition 33, the reality is that once again, we see Xbox and Game Pass itself helping publishers and helping games, especially those that aren't well known, that are new IPs, get the attention they need, the exposure they need, and being on Game Pass day one just helps that even more. As far as I'm concerned, this is a win-win situation for Xbox. And then we come to this, right, from VGT Gaming News. Imagine loving video games and not having Game Pass. Scary, eh? I know, people must have really woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Can you imagine a news media outlet of any kind actually praising Game Pass? No way! This doesn't seem normal, chat. This doesn't seem normal. I can't believe this, but here's just a few examples. Avowed, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Ninja Gaiden Black 2, Balatro, Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered, which should really be a remake. Blueprints, you absolutely have to play that. South of Midnight, phenomenal. Clair Obscure, phenomenal. Doom the Dark Ages coming soon. Tony Hawk Free 4 this summer. Call of Duty, Starfield, even more games coming this year. Especially now that GTA 6 has gone away. All I can say is Game Pass is the place to be. And for all of those naysayers out there that say Game Pass is bad, all I can say is the cope is real, folks. The cope is real. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed this content, do hit that like button and subscribe. Hit that bell to stay up to date with all content I release. If you enjoy the content, you can support me further by hitting that super thanks or by becoming a YouTube member where you can get content like this earlier than anyone else. That's it, folks. Peace out and remain legend.